Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning for our third winter technical briefs. Let's see, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to, before we get started, if everybody could maybe just type in what organization they're from in the chat, just so we kind of get an idea of who's joining us this morning. And while you guys are doing that, I'll go ahead and get started. So we have one more winter technical brief next Tuesday morning, December 7th, with Denver Preston from K-Tech Specialty Coatings. And he'll be talking about various different products that you'd be mixing in with your chlorides and with your brine to improve the melting capacity. Denver has done similar presentations for us in the past. He's very knowledgeable. So if you get a chance to join us next Tuesday, that'll be our last one for the season. So my name, Jennifer Hammer. I'm with the Conservation Foundation, and we've been working in the Chicagoland area for nearly 50 years, coming up next year. Very excited to be celebrating our 50th anniversary. We are really a community-based organization working on land and river preservation. We have kind of four major areas around land, around water, environmental education, and outreach and advocacy. For the most part, we work in DuPage, King, Kendall, and Will counties with focus also within Cook, DeKalb, Sale, Grundy, so kind of the whole orange area up there. We're based out of Naperville, just over into the Will County line. I'm going to change this up a little bit. So normally we talk about all the land preservation work that we've done over the last 50 years. Today, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of the areas that we work in on the watershed side of things. So we provide staffing for 4 different watershed groups: DuPage River Salt Creek Work Group, Lower DuPage River Watershed Coalition, Lower Des Plaines Watershed Group, and the newest one is the newly formed Chicago Area Waterways Chloride Work Group. And then we also work with various partners through our Fox River Initiative in the Fox River Watershed. So kind of jumping right into things today. I always like to start out any of my presentations on chlorides and chloride reduction, kind of with we're always focused on safety first. So we're not asking anybody to sacrifice safety in order to get less salt in our rivers. The things that we promote through the SaltSmart program and working with our trainings and education and outreach is all really focused on the best practices out there for safe surfaces. So, just because you don't see as much salt on the road doesn't mean that the crews out there aren't doing the right thing. And in general, the idea of just more salt does not necessarily equal more safe. So again, all of the things that we do, we really do focus on safety first. We've been working and really kind of bolstering the SaltSmart collaborative over the last several years. It's meant to be a regional clearinghouse of information and resources. We have things geared towards municipalities, towards private landowners, residents, and private contractors, working on building those resources over time, and really working to develop additional trainings, outreach materials, and other resources. So we're always looking for input and participation within the SaltSmart at saltsmart.org, but through the collaborative. So winter chlorides. I think this gets to be somewhat a little touchy sometimes, but the idea that as we have done better over the years, as far as clearing our roads, to really what has become somewhat unrealistic and unsustainable situations of, bare pavement as soon as the storm ends, has really made it, it's made it more difficult to continue to hold up that level, that sort of expectation out there in the public. And not to say that, we don't want clear roads as soon as we can get them, but because we've done almost too good of a job in some situations, the expectations out there from the public have grown every year. So as we are trying to change those expectations, it's going to take time, and it's going to take kind of outreach from kind of every direction. As part of it too, is we also need people to just be more prepared for driving conditions, for walking out in the snow, kind of really trying to engage with them about sort of sensible clothing and appropriate footwear and things like that, to have them prepared for the winter season. And that as practices are changing, they're going to see different things. And just because things look different doesn't mean that somebody hasn't been out there doing their job. So if they don't see a whole lot of salt on the road, to maybe notice that there's the anti-icing stripes are out there, and why. Okay, so jump in. I think for many of you that have attended our other trainings, we've talked about really the problems with chlorides, just the impacts to aquatic life, to our fish, and insects and mussels and plants and things that live in the water, as well as our vegetation along the roads, our infrastructure, both vehicles and things like bridges and entryways. There are a number of impacts that are out there from chlorides, and the cost of those impacts goes well beyond just the cost of salt. And so understanding those impacts and the cost associated with those. And so the benefits that we can have if we can make reductions in the amount of salt that's put down. And the reductions that we're talking about are those excesses. The other thing too, I always like to talk about, particularly with municipalities, is that connection between stormwater and wastewater programs. The quality of our runoff, what it's doing to our local streams, has an impact as far as how our wastewater treatment plants are operated. So when we can have relatively healthy streams, our wastewater treatment plants are generally allowed to continue to operate as they are operating currently. And many of our treatment plants, I'd say the vast majority of our treatment plants in our region, really do a very good job in their wastewater activities. But when we do have problems with water quality, the first place that Illinois EPA goes to is those wastewater permits. And while chlorides are very much coming from a source from our landscape, so that non-point, that stormwater source, the problem does end up eventually in the wastewater plant through infiltration into from storm water into wastewater pipes, through the combined sewer systems. And then it becomes potentially a problem at the wastewater plant. And trying to remove chlorides at a wastewater plant is incredibly expensive. So if we can work to reduce the amount of chlorides getting to our streams from that source, from how much we put down, we can really help on the wastewater end of things. So as we're talking about outreach, we always have to be thinking about who our audiences are. And for this topic, we have a number of different audiences and different ways that we need to focus on these audiences. And so the kind of most obvious one is residents and the general public. But anybody who's a landowner, property owner, property managers, they're the property managers are the ones hiring the private contractors, putting salt down along sidewalks in front of shops or in parking lots. Commuters is the people who are driving out on our streets, and what do we want them to do differently. And then I think an area that tends to, or an audience, I guess, that tends to maybe not elevate itself to the top in these discussions is our elected officials and municipal staff. When residents have issues with what they consider problems in their community, they tend to contact their elected officials. And so we need to make sure that our elected officials understand the programs, the fact that you have a plan, and that there is somewhere to go to get answers. And so having them up to speed on what that plan is and why, and the work that your staff is doing out there is really important. And then making sure your staff also understand, particularly if you're making changes to your program and implementing new best management practices, that the staff understands why and how they work, and thinking about staff beyond those who are directly involved with snow and ice operations, like the person who maybe answers the phone in the Public Works Department, who maybe is getting calls from irate residents, and to have them prepared to be able to answer questions. And all of that is part of the education and outreach program. And so as we put together materials, we're really kind of thinking about our messaging strategies, trying to really keep things simple as much as possible, while still having some things that go into more in depth, making things very relatable. Try to use as many pictures or illustrations as we can, kind of versus putting up charts and graphs, things like that. And then also think about the things that we don't want to do. We don't want to judge people for their actions. We don't want to doom and gloom them or overpromise. There is no one thing out there that's going to solve all of our problems. So to be, kind of realistic about the things that we're asking people to do. We have, generally speaking, most communities and many organizations have an existing outreach framework that they can work within. Whether it's your website, whether you still do a newsletter to your residents, various social media. Many municipalities that I've been to have TV screens in their office foyers. And so those are all opportunities to be able to post messages, whether around chlorides or any of the other MS4 type outreach that you're responsible for. So snow and ice plans are really kind of the backbone of your program, and should really reflect the current operations, your current practices. So making sure that your snow and ice plans are up to date, because that's really what you can point back to when you're speaking with your elected officials or with residents who are upset because their cul-de-sac hasn't been plowed yet. Things like that. And so that they understand that you have a plan, that you're implementing your plan, and to make sure that everybody is really up to date on it, so that it's definitely reviewed with key staff before every season. And so again, that would be your staff who are actually part of the operations, but again, those who answer the phones, sharing it with your leadership. So does it go to your elected officials every year? Do they know, whether you've updated it or not, or made tweaks to it, but that they know that plan is there, they know where to find it, they know who to contact if they have questions, or they have a resident that's contacted them with questions. Many municipalities share it on their website. Let people know you have a plan. I mean, it's something that I learned. I've been working on these outreach around chlorides for almost 15 years. And, I think one of the things that we really learned first year in, this is an incredibly complicated program. Every storm is different, depending on how the temperature, weather conditions, road conditions, previous snowfall, things like that. Every storm is different. And so to have people understand that you do have a plan, it's a complex program, but you guys are implementing that plan. I think that's really important for residents to know. And then to have, some sort of frequently asked questions posted on your website, as well as with that person who answers the phone, so that they have, some materials right there at their fingertips to help answer questions. So some of the messaging, and I will go through where all of this material is located on the SaltSmart website as we kind of get through things here. But I was going to go through kind of some of the key messages that we've been working on over the last 2 or 3 years and some of the materials that we've developed. So, one of them really has been that kind of safety first, and, the things that we want people to do. So, obviously, if you can stay home and give the plows a chance to get out there and do their work, please do. We've all had, not all of us, but many have had that opportunity over the last nearly 2 years to work from home as needed. And so when there are storms, for those who can work from home, to get them to stay home, or even if it's, go in a little late. So to kind of think that out, plan ahead, make sure that if you do have to leave early, give yourself plenty of time, about just being aware of your conditions and how you're dressing, your appropriate footwear, things like that. But then we have a number of messages around, not crowding the plow, not passing a plow, those safety things that we want people to do if they do have to get out there and drive. So these are meant to be like social media pieces that can be used on Facebook or Instagram, that can be linked with a blog. We have many articles that can be attached to these, or to something else that maybe you have on your own website. And then messages about, how we want people to use salt, and the idea that we really need people, both in your operations as well as what people do at home. You got to shovel and scrape and sweep, whatever you got to do to get as much of the snow and ice off of the pavement as possible. And then using just enough snow, or just enough, enough salt, and then it's spread out and it's not in clumps. And you'll see a picture later. We have our salt scatter cups that we have available. So basically that 12-ounce cup of salt can easily cover 10 sidewalk squares. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's enough to get the job done. And some messages about, we sweep salt up afterwards and use it later, again, really geared towards residents. The poster on the right side of the screen there is a new poster that we just put together that we'd really help to get out to anybody that has, a shovel and a bucket of salt at a doorway. So whether it's a store or school or office building, to get these, like they're set up, they could be printed as like an 11 by 17 poster to get them up on the wall, and just let people know really, kind of what we want them to do, and that they shouldn't, just because if there's a lot of snow out there, don't just automatically go out and throw salt down. So again, trying to kind of get at things from a number of different angles. We've been trying to put together more information about kind of how salt works, how communities do their work, that sort of level of service, how that works. And for more and more information about the anti-icing programs. So to kind of get people to understand, obviously as it gets colder, the regular salt doesn't work as well. And so, that if they need to switch to different products at home, that's part of your program, that you're not going to just put rock salt out if pavement temperatures are below 15. We've also put together a list of frequently asked questions. We have this available both as just a PDF, and it's kind of very general. We can also we also do have it available as a Word document. If you'd like to take the Word document and then put in specifics about your community, whether you have a specific ordinance about not throwing snow back out into the road as you're clearing off your driveway, or how much of the sidewalk a homeowner is responsible for clearing, things like that. So that information can be kind of customized within this document here. This year, we're making a big push as more and more communities have implemented anti-icing to really, both we're seeing it on the roads. There are a number of private de-icers that are starting to use this on parking lots and sidewalks. And so as people are seeing those lines, that they understand what they mean, and that, we don't need to be crunching across salt to know that we're safe. And in conditions like the picture there in the middle, this was an actual sidewalk that we took a picture of, and the amount of salt on there almost created a dangerous situation in and of itself. And so we're really kind of hoping that we can get people to come along with us and use the hashtag Love the Lines for those communities that are implementing anti-icing programs. And so we have some blog articles or newsletter articles that can go along with this, and some other social media pieces as well. So as I mentioned, we have a number of existing materials that are already available really to anyone. And in order to sign up for the workshop or to the webinar here this morning, you would have gone to saltsmart.org. At the top of the page, under the info tab, there's an outreach materials tab that you can find. And it has all of the materials that you've seen here today, as well as a number of others. Like I mentioned, we have the SaltSmart Save More cups, the salt scatter cups. We have bookmarks. We have, like I said, many more social media posts, some other posters, the articles. We have videos posted, both videos that we've done. We've been putting up, also trying to gather videos from other communities locally here to be able to post them, give people ideas. So those are available. Let's see, again, we had, yeah, these are 2 new posters for this year that we are available out there. We'd love to see them up on doorways and things. And then another sort of fun thing that we worked on this winter was a little comic. And so again, trying to just get at people from different directions, have some fun with it. And then all of the squares are also available individually. So you can do like a photo stack on social media, or you can pull out individual pictures and be able to use those with a social media message. And so those are all available that way as well. So I'm going to switch to my other screen. So again, there's the info tab and then outreach materials, and it gets you to this page here. We have a PSA that we were able to share from Edina, Minnesota. So it's a PSA, more isn't always better. It's about 1.5 minutes long. You know, if you have the ability to share it, it can be shared through the YouTube channel here. And we were able, they provided us all of the video from it, and then we'll just put our local messaging for Northeastern Illinois at the end of it, so it really can work for any community in Northeastern Illinois. There was a webinar that we did last year on kind of the broader, I think this one was really geared more towards residents on the things that they can do at home. We have a new video, or a video that Romeoville did last year that they did a really nice job messaging about, like, keep your trash cans off of the street on garbage day so the snow plows can get by, and about parking in the street and snow in the street. So if your community has videos that they'd like to share with us, to be able to share with others, if you can send links my way, or there's an info@saltsmart.org on here, you can also send it to. We would love to share other people's materials. That is really the purpose of the SaltSmart Collaborative, is to really kind of elevate all of the work that everybody is doing in the region. So if you have things that you would like to share, you think other communities would find useful, please send them our way. And the posters are here. They can be downloaded both as a PNG or a PDF, so depending on how you want to use them. Again, the comic is available. And so for any of the comic and the social media pieces, if you click on it, and then you can just right click and hit save the image, and that'll save it back to your computer as a JPEG to use. And then we do have blog posts. So if you're, if it's easier for your community to basically link to a blog post, if you go to the post itself, And then you can just click copy the address up there and use it as your link. But it looks like my pictures are coming up a little bit slow. Sorry about that. Too many people working from home today. But we have pictures. They do come up. So you can link them in off of your social media post if you're interested in other, rather than putting your own blog post together. Oops. So there's a number of blog posts. So we have things that are recent from this year, and then the things that we've done over the last couple of years, and the same thing with the social media graphics. So we have a whole number of graphics that are available. And Glenn, again, you can just click on them, right click, and then save the image to your computer. We have the bookmark. We also have a bunch of these printed if people are interested in them, as well as the scatter cups. And again, I'd mentioned there's the FAQ. So we have it up here as a PDF. If you're interested in it as a Word document, you can contact me. And then we also have, we have it as a live page on the website here as well. So a number of resources here. Please go ahead and check them out. I'm gonna switch back to the presentation. All right. So some other things that we have kind of in the works. We're still hoping to get some other short videos or kind of interview videos with Public Works done this winter as the snow season starts. We're, as part of our another project that we have, working on a training and certification program for parking lots and sidewalks. We're going to be working on some outreach materials to go along with that. So some specific things for property managers so that they understand why private contractors are changing some of their practices, and why some of the, like if they hire somebody and they're using anti-icing, that is actually really a better practice, a very safe practice under the right conditions, and having those stripes out there instead of salt on the sidewalk is a good practice and something that they should be asking for. And then to go along with that, marketing materials for saltsmart certified private contractors. So those are some things that we're working on. And then we're always looking for ideas. You can reach out to Leah or I. Leah Rodberry does all of our graphics and illustrations and video work. Her email is on the saltsmart webpage. But if you have ideas, we're always looking for input on topics and messages. If there are things that you don't see up here as far as messages go, if you drop us a line, we're always looking to be working on things. We're definitely looking for more photos and video clips. So unfortunately, you work on having your materials ready for the season, which means we really try to have our outreach materials for the current season wrapped up by mid-October. So at that time of year, we can't get new photos and things. So we're really trying to gather photos and video during this season so that we can be making more things for next season. Many of the pieces can be customized. We can add a logo to them, things like that, particularly for members of our watershed groups. They're part of our staffing for them, covers that kind of basic service. And then we also work directly with a number of organizations through our conservation and community program. So with park districts and communities, municipalities, things like that. So I'm gonna open things up to any questions. Pretty much right on time. We're trying to keep these webinars brief at a half hour. So if anybody has any questions, you can drop them in the chat. We will have a recording of this posted to the saltsmart website probably later this week. We usually try to get those up fairly quickly. If anybody has any questions, and you can also always contact me just via email. All right. Well, without any questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, if you think of something later, or if you look at stuff or don't see something on the SaltSmart website, have any issues with anything, please do contact me. And thank you for joining us this morning.